Hey, everybody. Thanks again for joining me. Today, I've got my friend Greg Henry with Push10 here on the call. Greg, good to see you. Thanks so much for coming on.
Nice seeing you too. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So we were just talking before this and catching up. You primarily at Push10 work with nonprofits and social good companies and do branding and websites. And you just mentioned closing Outward Bound and Jane Goodall's foundation. Super cool. Tell me about this. How do you guys get sort of involved with those sorts of organizations that have such global reach?
So it's a combination of years of a tough slog, gradually heading up the ladder. I remember who's now my business partner. We first started working together as freelancers back in, I think, 2011. I'd already started Push10. I was too busy to handle all the work. Met her and we started working together. And it was about a year into doing projects together. And she's like, hey, if we don't start getting some better clients in here, I'm going to start, doing additional opportunities. And it kind of hit me at that stage of my freelance career, I was kind of taking on anything and everything that I could to make ends meet, so to speak, and not really focused on the quality of the clients. And that was a real wake up call that we were just kind of spinning our wheels with mom and pop shops and everything. So we really just started to double down on the quality of our work, double down on our strategic thinking and our process, and just really focus on building that portfolio with better work. And after years and years, those small companies turned to mid companies, turned to eventually more enterprise level companies. So you kind of make it to the big leagues.
You make it sound so simple, Greg. I joke because this is to me the big struggle is mental, right? When you say it on paper, it sounds easy. Like, oh, Greg just decided 15 years ago he's going to put his foot down and focus on getting bigger, more aligned clients that are in a specific niche. Like, okay, it sounds easy, but what mentally switched for you, or how did you kind of make that evolution?
As I mentioned, part of the driver honestly was Squarespace and WordPress themes. And we realized that we can no longer do small mom and pop businesses for $5,000 to $10,000 because Squarespace is going to come eat our lunch. And we need to move upscale. And the way we do that is through quality of work. And the quality of work speaks for itself and will attract bigger and better clients. I feel a little bit like deja vu right now with AI nipping at the heels. It feels a little history repeating itself. So therefore, you want to double down and focus on your client relationships and focus on the human touch and focus on guiding clients through the process, whether or not you're using AI to boost your productivity or not. Really kind of seeking how can I stay ahead of these lower cost churn and burn tools and differentiate and stay highbrow? Because if you've been doing this for any length of time, you know that competing on price is a downward spiral to zero.
Right.
So you have to go the other direction and say, how can we deliver value and command high budgets? And it has to be through the quality of work.
Yeah, I think that's a really good insight and something a lot of entrepreneurs who are kind of newer to this or getting started will ask this question in one way or another to me. It was just like, what do I do when AI tools are going to make it so easy for my clients to do this themselves, or to get if they're content writers, I can't match the 0.001 cent a word that ChatGPT gives you. It's like, yeah, don't stay away from that, right? Go to the other end of the market where people are willing to pay a lot of money, but your quality's got to be really, really good. And to your point, you've really got to, you can use the AI to improve your efficiencies, maybe, get some things that are easy level stuff done, but it's not going to replace the really high end, high touch work that we do.
Sure. Yeah. I just we had a team meeting, our monthly team meeting, and I brought up AI to the staff because I'm sure they're worried too. If you watch any amount of YouTube or social media or whatever, it seems like every other post is AI doomsday posts. The head of Anthropic, I think he used the term bloodbath. Maybe they're right. I don't know. Or maybe they're trying to drive up their stock price. I know Apple did that by releasing it way too early with Siri, and they've got a class action lawsuit on their hands. So I don't want to, I certainly don't know. So it's just a hunch. It's either that or whoever the YouTuber is that is promoting this wants a clickbait headline because they're financially incentivized as well to, hey, what's the old saying in the press? If it bleeds, it leads.
It bleeds, it leads. Sure. Yeah.
It's a little bit of that. And so what we're trying to do is keep an eye on AI, use it when we can, test the tools. We don't want to put our head in the sand and act like it's not happening. We want to be ready for it and on the cutting edge when it does happen. But at the same time, it is still very much a human world. I made an analogy. I showed a couple ads, classic ads to my team. There's the one way back for, I think the 60s, was a VW bug, and the headline was just lemon. It's a very famous ad. ChatGPT doesn't write headlines like that. More recently, there is the Nike from the 80s with the Just Do It. Or Nike again with Caitlin Clark. There's a famous ad they released just 2 or 3 years ago when she'd broken a record. And the headline was, "You break it, you own it." And that's human brilliance. Maybe AI will get there at some point, but it's not there now. ChatGPT can write you 100 headlines. None of them are going to be that good. So yeah, so that's kind of where my take on AI right now. I know it's a hot topic, and we could probably spend the whole podcast talking about it, which I don't want to do. But yeah, we're trying to implement it where appropriate.
Yeah, right. Well, it being that it's 2025 and I interview agency owners, this topic can't not come up. So we'll just get it out of the way early. That's fine. So let's go back in history, because we've kind of alluded to this. You've talked, you've seen these trends, you've seen things in the market change. Let's go back to the starting, though. What got you starting an agency or freelance work that became an agency? Were you doing branding and web design work before, or was this
Sure.
kind of like the beginning for you?
Yeah, I can dig into the quick, get a time machine and dig into a quick a little history here. I was a mass communications major, advertising sequence. Went to University of South Florida, graduated in the late 90s. And my first job actually was at the Tampa Tribune, making newspaper ads. Think Starbursts and used car sales Saturday afternoon, like as cheesy could be. But hey, it was a foot in the door in the industry, and it was my first job. And from there, I got a job at a software company where I really got to learn a little bit of everything. So I worked on their website and all their print materials and everything, and was there for a few years. And then I got my first job as a web designer right when the .com thing was blowing up, 98, 99, around that time. I loved it. I just said back then, the term UX designer wasn't a thing yet. So the cool term was web designer. So I loved meeting people and telling them I was a web designer and everything. In hindsight, it wasn't that cool, but at the time,
Right.
it seemed really cool. Worked at a couple of agencies then, doing a mix of print and web and whatnot. And I got set up with all the red tape at the agencies, and especially the bigger agencies, not being able to talk directly to the client, not being able to present my designs directly to the client, defend my work. Perhaps they didn't like option A, fine, but just don't come to me with revisions of option B. Let's talk about option C then, might be a better approach. And that collaboration is where the great work happens. And I just missed that. So, and I had a sort of moonlighting freelance business that was growing. And in 2005 or six, maybe six, I took the plunge and quit a perfectly good day job. That was so scary at the time. It wasn't like I got laid off and I'll try this freelance thing. I had a perfectly good, stable job that I was relatively happy at. And I just wanted bigger and better things. And I just quit. And I was convinced I was going to be out of business in 3 months, but the opposite happened. I started to make a lot more money, started working too much, quite frankly. I'm sure other owners fell into this trap too, especially back when you were a small shop or a freelancer. When your income is really tied to your time, you feel guilty taking time off. So it's Sunday afternoon, football game's on, and that 3-hour football game at $90 an hour just cost me $270. Was it worth it? No, I should have worked. But then you burn yourself out. Or then, like, let's say I didn't have any work to do. Then you feel like, well, I don't have any work to do. You start freaking out. I should be doing marketing. Either way, you're not going to watch the football game and just enjoy your time off. So that became a bit of a grind, and I started to just have more work than I can handle. And I was faced with the choice: either start to turn this work away or start to build a team to grow that. And that's when I met my business partner, and we sort of combined forces and started to take on projects together. Come 2011, that's when we realized, hey, let's do this for real and start hiring employees. So we got the office space and started to take on employees and grow a team. Over the next 10 years, Push10 grew to a team of about 20. And at some point, we'd started off as a generalist design studio, like so many do. And we realized we really need to specialize in what we do and who we do it for, because we're just a small fish swimming around in this huge pond. Every job is a competition with 15 other agencies that are generalists, and it was a slog. So we decided to specialize in the mission-driven space. Unfortunately, at that time, so did everybody else. So we also decided to specialize with leading with being the branding agency, and obviously we do a lot of web design and development. We were going to put our foot forward with branding. because we do our best work and we can start with the brand and then do the web. And, so many other agencies jumped into that mission driven pond in like the 2020, 21 time period that we didn't get the benefits of specialization. The benefits of specialization was when you niche down far enough that you more or less get to do the same project over and over again. So you don't have to do the market research. You already know it. You can just present it to the client. The people that want to come work for you, they already have the perfect skill set because they're attracted to you to do a very niche type of work. So, and that just snowballs and feeds off of itself. But there were so many agencies in the mission-driven space that we weren't really getting those benefits. And also at the same time, we had great work with food and beverage and with AEC industry that we didn't want to lose. I didn't want to just those case studies were fun. Let's throw them in the trash and not do that anymore. So we recognized, though, that we didn't want to just simply add food and beverage and AEC brands to our homepage because that would really dilute our mission-driven messaging. So we spun up 2 new agencies. We started with a company called Aid and Abet. Its website's aidabet.co, which is the food and beverage branding agency. And we put all our food and beverage work in there and started marketing to very specific niche lists. And then we did the same thing for the AEC. For those that don't know, AEC is architecture, engineering, and construction companies. It's really hard to target just one because most of them do more than one thing. And if they don't, they have tight partners. It's all a really tight community. So the AEC space, we started a company called Third and Arch that specializes in that. Currently, these are just subsidiaries. They're DBAs. For the most part, I have dedicated teams working on them, but we can share resources back and forth between the agencies. As time goes on and these agencies continue to demonstrate financial stability on their own and gain a foothold, my plan is to really separate them out to their own EINs, whether it's an LLC, an S Corp, whatever that may be. Bespoke staff, bespoke payroll, bespoke benefits, everything unique. And to do that, I really need sort of an operations manager type role at each agency because I'm pulling my hair out it's hard enough to market one agency, try to market 3. It is. Which proposal template am I using today? I mean, it's really, really hard. So my goal is to get them running to a point where I can really have bespoke staffs. And then like you alluded to at the beginning, let's say I got 10 years, 15 years left in the tank that I want to do this. But let's say I don't want to retire entirely. In theory, I could sell one of these sub-agencies, but keep the other or whatever. So it just gives me flexibility. And it also gives market flexibility. Let's face it, in specializing with mission-driven organizations, when Doge hit, we were freaking out. We lost a couple clients. A lot of stuff went on ice. Clients were losing funding. And I was so thankful that we had these other hooks in the water, lines in the water, I think is a saying, to attract other types of clients. So it's good from that perspective. But yeah, marketing 3 different agencies is a bear.
Yeah, I was going to say this is something where we'll have lots of shared challenges on because being that right now I own 2 and we've been looking at buying a 3rd. It is like there's a limit to what I can manage and oversee and strategically really be involved in. Sure, I might be able to weigh in here and there on a decision, but like I shouldn't be running. At some point, I got to pull back and let somebody run these things, and I think that's something we're talking about too.
The old saying is your eyes are bigger than your stomach or something like that. And so often I feel like that because as driven entrepreneurs, which most agency owners are, you see these opportunities and you want to do it and you want to do it all. Then you have a reality check that you're trying to do 30 different things, but you're not actually moving it forward on any one.
You're doing none of them well, yeah.
Because you can't juggle 30 balls at the same time. So then it's like, okay, what is the highest priority thing I can do today and try to focus? I don't technically have ADD, but sometimes this agency makes me feel like I have ADD. Especially in today's modern world, it's always popping up with a Slack notification or an email or this and that, or then my phone rings. My phone's already rang twice in my pocket as we've been on this call. And it's just really hard to maintain focus sometimes with everything, dinging at you and needing your attention is very difficult.
Super hard. Yeah. And it's funny because I used to think that that difficulty would go away as we got bigger and I hired more team, and it doesn't seem to. It's like the requests are different. Yeah, they're different, but they're not going away.
Yeah, it gets worse.
Yeah. Okay, so Greg, backing up to the nonprofit and with Push10. So interesting niche. First of all, I imagine it's very gratifying to work with these companies that have a social good bent. That's a good, the plus side. The challenge I would see is it's got to be tough around budgets, right? Because a lot of these organizations are raising money from donors to get budget, and that fluctuates. Like, how do you kind of manage your costs and sort of your the way you can price yourself to stay within their budget? And is that a challenge, or is that something you guys you've figured out pretty well by this point?
We figured it out early on that your average neighborhood or city nonprofit, for that matter, is not going to be our clients. And you need to have that conversation early in a method that's not awkward. What we typically do is we get the lead in. A lot of our leads come through our website, whether it's organic search or whether it's a referral. And they come to our website, they fill out our form. We get the lead, we respond and talk about scheduling a call to learn more about the project and ask them, before hopping on a call with you, can you just answer these 4 questions for me to help me better prepare for the call? And the first one's obviously, how did you find us and what drew you to reach out? So that kind of teaches what you know what your competitive advantage is. Oh, I found you on Google and I was really attracted to your design. Okay, great. My sales brain now knows that my hook is they really like good design, type of thing. So that's one valuable question. Another one is obviously, do you have a specific budget and timeline that we should be aware of? Reason we're asking that is there are several different recommendations or paths that we can go down in this call, and we don't want to go down a path that's inappropriate for you. I don't want to recommend granite countertops and under cabinet lighting if it's not in your budget, is the analogy I always make. So, and that's really well to phrase it like that rather than, hey, do you have enough money? Which you sound like a jerk if you say that. So most cases, they'll come back with a budget of, I don't know. That's more because who shops for these services all the time? Nobody. And if you are shopping for the services, I can't think of a more demanding experience because you're going to contact one agency that they quote you $2,000 and you're contacting another one, they quote you $200,000. It's literally that crazy. So their heads must be spinning. So a lot of them say, I don't know. In which case we say, okay, are you thinking $5,000 or $100,000?
Right. Let's get an order of magnitude here.
Right. And instantly like, no, I was thinking more like $4,000. And you're like, okay, we probably shouldn't hop on a call together. It's going to be a waste of both of their time. You might want to check out a Freelancer or check out Squarespace, or we try and point them in the right direction and get them going because they're a good organization. We just don't want to, hey, you can't work with us, too bad. We try and point them in a right direction. I think the caliber of work and the types of clients on our site tend to attract other clients with budgets. And we have started to niche down in the past couple of years because I mentioned that mission driven as a whole really isn't much of a specialty. So we've started to find a home in a few agencies within mission driven. One of those is, I'll call it research and scientific institutions. We did a website for the Sontag Foundation, which is brain cancer research. They referred us to the Brain Tumor Network. We've also done a site for Cure Epilepsy and another site for an organization called NephCure that are kind of related. So these big research organizations have a lot more budget than your typical mom and pop nonprofit. Another area we're doing really well is, I don't know if they're technically nonprofits or not, the economic development foundations, your city chamber of commerces, or your BDOs or things like that. We are doing really well in that space, and we're building a portfolio of about 6 clients in that space already over the past couple of years. And the other one that's been really big for us lately, believe it or not, is Greek organizations. And when I first brought Kappa Delta into the fold, my team was like, you were doing a sororities website? I'm like, you clearly weren't Greek in college, because a sorority is not just the college chapter where you all like to party on Friday night. It is actually a nationwide philanthropic organization. And we did Kappa Delta and the floodgates opened. And we get leads from Greek organizations all the time now. So we're actively putting up landing pages for each of these different specialties with all the case studies, and then we'll get appropriate mailing lists and LinkedIn lists, et cetera, and really start to market to these agencies to see if we can find one of these 3 niches to give us that niche within a niche. Because clearly just being mission driven, just Google it. Google mission driven branding agency. Good luck doing SEO to show up in that search, because there's thousands. So you got to niche down further, and that's what we're trying to do in that space. But our 3 niches that we've chosen all have legit budgets, so they're able to work with an agency like Push10.
I think this is great insight, Greg. I'm just going to highlight a couple things you've said so far for people listening. One, picking a niche that you you're excited to work with, that matters for sure. Like that's good. But also sort of gut checking that against, can they actually pay enough for this to be a real business? And again, like it's one thing if a small neighborhood nonprofit has $1,000 to spend on, building a new website, like fine, send them to a freelancer. Like, so you're never going to build a big agency off of $1,000 contracts. But you got to know, like, where is the market that we actually should grow with, right? And that's a really good insight and something that I agree a lot of agency owners kind of take a while to figure out. The other thing I like is your approach here to splintering off the agency into multiple front end brands, let's call them, at least. And then there are now different teams behind them. But I imagine simple early days, it was just let's spin up a separate website that shows us focused on these brands and these case studies that we've done with this space. Like such an easy, relatively speaking, easy way to kind of differentiate your two sort of focuses or three focuses as you go. Love that.
We actually started that idea with when we didn't even have the brands yet. They were just landing pages off of Push10, industry specific landing pages. And once that went well, then we took the next step. And even today, we have a fair number of staff that juggles multiple email addresses, depending on which brand that they're working on. So we do share a lot back and forth.
Yeah. And it makes sense, right? Because actually, this is something I've observed as well running marketing agencies is smaller marketing agencies don't really have need for certain roles to be full-time, like accountants, HR, even some of the marketing, internal, like company marketing roles don't need to be full-time. They're just a fractional role. So when we can share them between 2 or 3 agencies, we get a lot of efficiency by just having that person kind of understand our playbook, so to speak. So I imagine, yeah, you're doing the same things. One thing I was going to ask you about the starting multiple agencies, again, I think we've talked a lot about the advantages. Let's talk about the challenges. What's hard about it? Because it's like you said, there's a little bit of this. I imagine there's some like resourcing challenges around like how much we give to each of them. How do we keep them separate, but also pay attention to all of them? What are the big challenges that top of your mind?
So it's funny you mentioned that. Just yesterday, my partner, I met with our marketing coordinator, I guess is her title, and she's in charge. One of her jobs is marketing all 3 agencies. And last month, I set a list of, I don't like to micromanage. I like to be high level. Let's do these following market tactics for each agency. On your market set, go. Let's see how we did at the end of the month. And literally only like 25% of the work got done. And I'm like, what happened? She's like, well, I got pulled into helping with client content population and client work comes first. And then I got to do this. And then some of my old office manager duties popped up because she's not full-time just on marketing for us. She's pulled in a lot of different directions herself. And we realized that we were just trying to do way too much because each agency was trying to write 2 blog posts and distribute a case study and, XYZ. So the marketing plan for each agency was way too robust. Now, if it was just for one agency, probably would have been doable, but you had to multiply by 3 because you're hitting 3 mailing lists and 3 this and 3 that. And just too many balls are being dropped. So for this coming month, we really scaled back the goal to the point where, hey, the food and beverage branding agency is a little bit slow right now, and we're really busy with the other 2. So let's just put that on ice. Maybe we'll write a blog post, maybe we won't. No pressure. So we're not doing any marketing for that. So having the resources in terms of time and budget, because if you want to run Google ad campaigns and you want to spend $2,500 a month, well, you got to do it for each agency. So it's now $7,500 a month. So that is the marketing expense and time and resources is probably the most difficult part. Doing the projects, it's just a matter of if you do have team that's crossing over, remember to use the right email address and remember to say the right agency name. Luckily, all of the clients do know the parent agency is Push10 because of when they do get the invoice, it will have the Push10 corporate parent company logo on it because I don't have 3 separate checking accounts and 3 separate QuickBooks. And QuickBooks, unfortunately, has one invoice template that you can send out. So I wasn't able to split that up. So they're all fine with it. They know we're a bigger agency with smaller specialties. So we come out, I say that during the sales process. I lean into the advantages of the big agency experience and capabilities that Push10 has with the niche industry expertise that Third and Arch has is a selling point for us. But yeah, it's really the marketing stuff that's the hardest part.
You bring up a good point just real quick about how when you split off these sub brands or what have you, clients don't care that behind the scenes you also do work with these kinds of clients and these kinds of clients. It's just a matter of like when they're looking and evaluating agencies, they want to find one that leans into what they need and they're who they are, right? And understands it. And so if you can lean into that and say, look, you're one of the 3 types of companies we work with. It's not like we're working with everybody and we have a million of these things. Like we're pretty focused still. But we do have a landing page that speaks to each of these things. And it makes sense too, because you're a branding agency. So like you kind of understand brand and communication, and like you understand that's important. So
We leaned into it so much that we created a bespoke website, logo, and all this stuff just for your industry because that's how dedicated we are to your
because that's,
specific
yeah, exactly.
industry. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, again, it brings up another good, sort of a counterpoint to people who say, well, I don't want to niche down because I'm afraid my clients will see that and they'll be like, oh, you don't work with my type anymore. It's like, no, they don't care. As long as you're doing good work, it's not like they're micro evaluating your website and your strategy. Like they just care that your output is good at that point. So don't worry
Yeah.
about it.
And just because you're niched doesn't mean you can't take on oddball jobs. You just don't stick them on your website. Nobody knows you're doing them. They still
That's
pay
right.
bills, they still add to the overall revenue, but you keep that purity of your brand.
Yeah. I want to kind of, you already started to bring this up. So let's dive in further to customer acquisition. Early days. Let's start way back in time. Tell me how you got your first few clients back when you were just starting to freelance. Was it personal network or kind of, introductions like that, or what worked for you early days? And then let's come to today after that.
I remember my very first lead that I got. Actually, it's maybe second. I remember my first two. My first two, I was, like I said, I quit the day job and I'm like, I need clients. So I sent a cover letter, like written in the mail with a stamp, old school, to every agency. I was in Philadelphia at the time. So every agency in Philly, I sent them a letter. I'm saying I'm freelancing. Here's a link to my portfolio, blah, blah, blah. Stuffed a couple business cards in there. Believe it or not, I got 3 clients from that. And those 3 clients alone replaced my day job salary.
That's amazing. Yeah.
But I also, one thing I did that I don't know how many freelancers listen to this podcast, but a mistake that I see a lot of freelancers make is they say I all the time rather than we. And one of the things I did is when I launched a website and realized I wanted to do this, I had a team page and I said we. And it wasn't made up. My team was colleagues, that there was a developer on there and there was a copywriter on there that I had worked with in the past and would work with in the future. I never said they were quote unquote full-time employees. I just said they were on my team. But that was
Yeah.
enough that it enabled me to attract real companies that wanted to work with a small agency. And it totally worked. So I sent out a direct mail campaign and I still remember it. It had a little picture of a pill with like my logo embossed in it. And the headline was, have you had your creative today? And I actually got a couple responses, and one of them was like a lawyer guy, the type of guy I still see. He has billboards all over Philadelphia. He's still out marketing. I never did work with him, but I remember taking my portfolio, schlepping down to the city with my portfolio and presenting my work, trying to land that account. I did not. So I started off with a mix of agencies as well as clients that wanted to work with a small agency. But then after that, as we started to grow our team, I'd say our biggest thing that brings in new business is the website and our case studies and quality of work on the website and just the SEO we put in behind the scenes to the website so that we do show up when you search. And that's another huge advantage of niching. Like I mentioned earlier, good luck getting on page 1 for mission-driven branding agency. It's not going to happen. For all of the third and arch terms like AEC web design agency, AEC branding agency for construction, this and that, whatever. We do really, really well in Google for those. And that was like, I have that skill set. We don't provide it much for clients, but I personally have that skill set and I use it for every time we launch a website, really kind of going deep with the digital marketing, the SEO. And people just fill out our forms and then we pre-qualify them. And you do have to make sure that you don't spend too much time with tire kickers because that's the danger of getting leads like that. You get a lot of people that aren't a great fit. So you have to identify the people that aren't a great fit, weed them out so you have time to lean into the people that are a good fit.
Yeah. So many good insights there. And Greg, I'll just echo kind of what you're saying with when you pick a narrow niche like this and you can actually make a presence in Google searches and now it's ChatGPT searches, but whatever, same basic fundamentals. You can also pick out the 5, let's say, industry conferences that are most impactful and just show up at them one year. It's like very easy when you have a very narrow niche. It's very easy to do outbound when there's only 1,500 companies you really even would want to work with, and like, so again, very narrow niche helps with that. It just makes so many decisions easier for you from a growth standpoint. It does, again, like going back to if you're only if your only work is based on referrals, it limits you, and that's why like it's so scary to some entrepreneurs who are early on in this. But once you've once you're trying to grow past just referrals, it is just makes all the marketing easier, cheaper, better, faster, whatever. So
yeah, especially if you're only doing one agency, niche down with one agency, you don't have the marketing issue I talked about. That marketing issue earlier is just because I'm trying to do everything 3 times. But you don't need to do that. And for those searching for a niche, the way we decided to niche Push10 down to mission driven was, I believe it was 2019 or 2020, we really started thinking seriously about this. And we thought, all right, where did most of our revenue come from last year? Who are our happiest clients, our best referrals? What does our team enjoy working on the most? And what jobs are most profitable? And we kind of put that all in a spreadsheet. We figured out, oh my gosh, it's mission driven. It's not law firms. We should let the law firms go or whatever. And that's really how we made the decision to niche. Most agencies, and I don't have data on this, it's just a hunch. Most agencies find their niche accidentally a little bit. The way we found Greek organizations, I did not set out when I started Sage Make, you know what I want to do? Greek organizations. I mean, I was in a fraternity back in the day. I had a blast, but that stage of life.
You're aware of the space.
I'm aware of the space, but it wasn't like I'm so passionate about my old fraternity brothers from 30 years ago that I want to run my company with this mission. No, it wasn't that. It was just, I'm aware of the space. I understand it. I understand what it takes to market to these people. I have a loose understanding. And hey, we did really good work in one. Now we're doing more. Our expertise is growing. Our portfolio is growing. And we'll start to attract people that have more expertise in that industry. And they'll even do more focused work. And it just all snowballs together. And it all kind of happened because we did great work. I remember the last day job I had, all we did was direct mail and TV ads for cable TV companies because one of their first big clients was Comcast. I don't know how they got their foot in the door, but they did and started to do some great work. And then Cox noticed and Time Warner noticed and whatever other cable companies are. Pretty soon they had them all. And when the decision, you mentioned trade shows. Well, there was a handful of trade shows each year centered around cable TV communications industry. And you better know it. They had a booth there. They were a known name there and everything. You can't do that if you're a generalist. Which trade show do you go to? All of them for everybody? It's impossible. So another sign you mentioned too, that you know your niche down when you know your competition. If you can't name your top 5 competitors, you're not in a niche. A lot of companies, their niche, I don't know if this still applies post-COVID, but a lot of companies, their niche is actually their location. So back in the day, before Push10 was specialized in mission-driven work, I could name our 5 competitors, but it was because the other top branding agencies in Philadelphia. The location was the specialty. But after COVID, when we're all remote and everybody has clients all across the nation, you really need either it needs to be an industry or it needs to be a very specific service that you provide better or cheaper or whatever than anybody else. Something that you can niche down into. Otherwise, you're just lost in this national sea of agencies.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, and I agree. The days of the corner agency, and for me, it's downtown Chicago. Not they don't exist and they don't get business. They do, absolutely. But like to try to start that and compete with that, like just doesn't make sense. It is too broad of a mandate. And the if I'm a small business owner in Chicago, why does that big agency have any sense of how to market to my customers that might be all over the world or what have you? So yeah, there's a lot of limitations to that model. One thing I was going to ask you, this is kind of a switch, but I am always curious about this when it comes to branding and web design and development work. How do you guys make sure you keep your customers coming back? Is it like every time they launch a new initiative, they're going to come back and get, a new branding project and web design work project? Do you have ongoing packages that kind of help with do maintenance stuff? Like, how do you make this business a little more recurring than a lot of branding agencies, which can be kind of one and done?
Yeah, this is a great topic. I'm glad you bring it up because monthly recurring revenue is the holy grail that we all want.
I want to sleep at night because I want to know my payroll is going to be paid, right?
Yeah. And well, plus too, further down the road, 15 years down the road, if you want to sell it, any potential buyer is going to want contracts. They're going to want to see that I'm not just buying something that could dry up 2 months from now. So, and it's tough because when you're primarily branding and web design, you launch the website, the bulk of the work is done. For some reason, there's a lot of agencies who do branding and web design like us. There's a lot of agencies who do just branding or just web design. And there's also a lot of agencies that just do SEO and digital marketing. And they might say they do web design, but they're really bad at it for the most part. And likewise, a lot of the companies that really do branding and web design and say they do marketing, they're not very good at the marketing part. And I've never been able to wrap my head around why it's so hard to do all three. Push10, we definitely lead with the branding and the web design. We can do some marketing, we can do some SEO, but if a larger company really had robust needs in that area, we'd need a partner. We don't have that in house, and that's very, very common. So I've never understood how that delineation happened, but I've always been envious of the digital marketing firms because that is retainer based. That is an annual contract. We're going to bill you monthly. We're going to make adjustments continuing month in, month out. Read how you did last. Here's the metrics from your campaign. We can prove our value. Way harder to prove a value of brand launch. It's so much qualitative rather than quantitative data. So that's difficult too. But what we do for recurring revenue is we are fortunate that we're not just a branding agency. Like I said, we get a lot of revenue from web design and development. So the vast majority of our clients do stay on with website maintenance packages post launch. That's probably a good 30% of our revenue now. And it's recurring and it's under contract. We have a few that aren't even larger contracts with some marketing services. So we call those creative services retainers or just overall services retainers. So it's your website maintenance plus a huge bucket of hours to actually do additional marketing projects and work if you have recurring needs. And what we try to do for the clients that are on maintenance, we recognize if we just put you on maintenance and we send you an invoice every month and we answer the phone when we call, if something breaks, we fix it. If you call, we answer it and we help you out, but we're not really being proactive. And you feel, especially for some clients that don't need to contact us, the only communication they were getting was the invoice, maybe a report of what we did every month. And that's just not demonstrating value. And they're also going to forget over time that we're a strategic agency. That's why they came to us. We had strategists involved in the planning phase and the design phase and so forth. Everything's strategic, but now we've been on maintenance with us for 2 years. You're probably just going to see us as a vendor, which is not what we want to be. We want to be a strategic partner. So what we started implementing a couple years ago was we call them 6-month strategy check-ins, where if you're on maintenance, every 6 months, our strategists get re-involved. They look at your analytics, they look at your hotjar, they look at other metrics, and we have a meeting to talk about how your site's doing, if you have any big initiatives coming up. It's really great because it makes the client remember that they're valued and we do care about their site, care about the longevity and the success of their site. But it's also an incredible business development tool for us because we get in front of the client with fresh ideas of bigger projects above and beyond just recurring monthly maintenance again that we can engage in. And it increases the shelf life of the site and it also decreases the client churn. So when clients just don't hear from you for years on end and you just keep invoicing them monthly for maintenance, it's only a matter of time before you get the, hey, just let you know we want to cancel our maintenance plan because we're designing a new website with someone else. That used to happen all the time 10 years ago. And we were like, why does this keep happening? And the solution was so obvious. I don't know why we didn't see it earlier. Duh. If you launch a website and the client never hears from you, they're going to forget about you. So these biannual or semi-annual, I can't remember which is which, they happen every 6 months. These check-ins definitely help with just getting that face time and reminding clients that we are strategic thinkers and we're a valued partner, not just a vendor.
That's a fantastic insight, Greg. And I'll carry this advice even further and say, even if you have a marketing agency with more retained services, that, we have a couple content agencies where we keep delivering and coming back every month. It's still a dangerous place to be just delivering what you said and not ever proactively going back to the client and saying, here's some things you could improve. Here's some other services we now have that we didn't have, when you initially signed, or we see you're doing this, but, did you know we could also help with that? Like, again, all this stuff, it's not just an upsell opportunity. It's also a chance to connect with your key stakeholders, to figure out other people in the org chart that might be important in case your contact ever leaves, to just embed your roots deeper. So I think it is really, again, the best agencies tend to figure out ways to kind of spread within their current clients, not just, do the job they're told to do. And I think it's an important thing to think about.
And it puts less pressure on that pipeline then too. If you have that recurring
absolutely.
revenue from existing clients. Although we did a few years ago, we made a huge push to let's really, generate more revenue from our existing client base, provide more services, offer more value, et cetera. And we took our biz dev people double as our account managers. And we gave them the initiative of really get more face time with the clients, get in front of them, try and sell more work. And it worked. We did have, we were selling more work to current clients, but it was like, hey, we want to do an additional landing page and it's $5,000 here, $5,000 there, $5,000 there. And what was dropped off the cliff though was the new 6-figure jobs. because their attention was not on the new big fish coming in the pipeline. It was small jobs to current clients. So we've switched that a little bit, allowed our AMs to spend more time focused on the next big fish, and emboldened our project managers who actually know more about the client, more about the projects, and many times because they're in the trenches working with them. We were trying to train our project management team more to think for like a sales mindset of like, what can we upsell you? What you mentioned 6 months ago that you didn't have the budget for this item. Now that it's a new fiscal year, maybe I should offer it as like a phase two or something like that. And just giving them more autonomy to move and actually kind of grow the existing accounts while leaving our biz dev people focused on the next big fish has been advantageous for us.
Yeah, I love that. That's a really good insight. And the more you can get that built into your DNA across the org, even in the, the production expenses the production resources are thinking, how do we get this client to do more with us over time? That's fantastic. If you can bake that in, it's tough to do, but I like it.
Yeah, I know it's a bit of a hokey saying, but it's something like everybody's involved in sales or always be selling or whatever. Because if you think about it, a designer is involved in sales because if they do a great design, that helps sell the next project. So literally everybody on the team has some involvement in sales. We've even tried stuff before. Like I know when I worked at agencies, our client rosters that I worked at were never that great. And it's one of the reasons I kept switching jobs. I constantly remind the team of Push10 how lucky they are. Like you guys are some really cool clients compared to what I did back in the day. But 10 years ago, as we were still really building our client roster, I gave the team initiative. I said, hey, if you have clients that you wish you could work on and you actually have some sort of connection or some sort of or the marketing manager or you heard in the news that they were just part of a merger or acquisition, pass that information along to the business development team. And if we land the job, we'll give you a 5% referral fee for nothing other than passing the name along. I was a bit shocked that only a couple people on our team actually took us up on that and actually tried because I mean, young me would have been all over that. I'm like, wait, we sell websites for like $100,000. So if I just give you a name, there's a chance I could get $5,000. I'm gonna give you like 100 names every week and just keep playing this lottery until I land one. I mean, that's what I would have done. But I was surprised a little bit about the lack of enthusiasm behind that. But we do have a couple people on our team that are all over it. They'll go to networking events all the time and whatever. And one of them's she's receiving referral fees right now on a job that she brought in. She went to a networking event. So just really encouraging that culture of get out there, promote your own work on LinkedIn. I mean, when we launch a site, I cannot tell the team, you have to put this in your LinkedIn profile. That's like probably illegal. It's definitely unethical. At the very least, it's unethical.
Right.
So we wouldn't do that, but I encourage them to because it's for them too.
It's their
work,
right?
It's your work. And let's be realistic. We hope you're here for 5 years, 10 years or beyond, but let's be real. You're probably not going to be here forever. It's probably not your forever job. We hope you're here for a good long time. But don't you want to constantly be updating your portfolio and your public profile so that if it's 5, 6 years down there and it's time for you to go, you have this whole thing built up already. So, just encouraging your team to always be promoting the agency, always be sharing work and everything like that. Because if you look at the visitors you have to your own LinkedIn company page, it's probably relatively low to the sum of connections that each team member have individually on their profile. So the more you can get your team out there and speaking about your agency and sharing about your agency, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, this is good stuff, Greg. I kind of want to ask one big future focused question because you're on this path of kind of having multiple agencies that are focused on different things. And like you said, that maybe someday you decide you want to sell one off and focus on another, or you bring in operators. What is the long term? What do you see in the next 5 or 10 years are you going to keep spinning up new brands? Are you going to kind of grow the ones you have and put operators in place, or are you still figuring it out as you go?
I can tell you my pipe drive and also warn you, bees just beep. They might die. If they die, I might put a different pair on. So I just got that dreaded noise where they go toot 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 toot. It's like, uh-oh. So all right, I'll tell you the sort of the pipe dream, and then I don't think it's necessarily reality, but one can dream. I would love for Push10 to become a holding company where Push10 doesn't actually do any work or have any clients directly. because Push10, it was named back in 2005. Its name, it sounds a little bit techie, a little bit Web 2.0-y. Nothing about the name Push10 speaks to mission-driven organizations or the spaces we're working in. And I could imagine a world where Push10 owned Aid Navet for food and beverage, Third and Arch for AC, another agency called Statement focused on financial firms, and the other keeping the mission-driven work. Maybe the agency was called Greater Purpose or something like that. I'm making these names up on the fly, by the way. They're probably trademarked and taken for all I know. But
Yeah,
you get
we
the
won't hold you
concept
to it.
of you get the concept of
Yeah.
Push10 is nothing more than a holding group of these multiple
Yeah.
different agencies. I've learned to just trying to spin up two that I can't do it myself. I've actually talked to somebody else that's doing this model, and I said, how do you still have hair on your head? Like, how are you just not going crazy trying to spin all this up? He goes, oh, I have equity-based managing partners at each firm, and they report to me quarterly. And I said, did you meet your numbers or not? And they say, yes. And I said, good, keep going. And they say, no. And I say, well, I'm wrong. How can I help you? How can I get you pointed in the right direction? That's all I do. And then all I do is monitor the financial sheets of all different agencies and run the holding company. So he runs one company, not five. So I would need to cross that hurdle. I asked him, the reason I found out they were equity-based was I asked him, what do you do if one of these people quits? Like, if you hire this high-level managing operations director type person to oversee the sales and marketing and all the high-level stuff and the hiring and the production of the agency, and then you have a team of 10 people beneath them, and they know everything about the agency, and you haven't touched it for 3 years, and then they quit. You're so screwed. Like, what do you do at that point? You don't even know who your clients are or the
Right.
status of the billing or anything. You're just so out of the loop at that point. He's like, oh, that's why they're equity based. So that it locks it in for more of a longer term engagement. So you give up some equity, but you get like a lot of sanity back. But I have to imagine that those are very hard to find and very expensive hires to make, to be able to actually clone yourself to run an agency. So that's the biggest hurdle between me and that sort of pipe dream, is trying to figure that out. And then as far as future plans, I don't really know, because if somebody came knocking next year and says, I'll give you $20 million for everything, I'm like, all right, I'm retired.
Right.
But I mean,
right. Well, we all have that number, right?
yeah, that's probably not realistic. So realistically speaking, I'm 50 now, 51 actually. So if I want to do this another 10 or 15 years, and I have managed to grow a few of these agencies, I could see myself sort of spinning off, selling off a couple of them, but maybe keeping a couple others to keep the ship running. I look at my parents who've been fully retired for probably a decade now, and they look super bored. So I can't see myself just sitting around and doing nothing and trying to keep busy for the long term. So I like the flexibility that the multiple agencies would provide, for sure. But I have a lot of work to do to get there, so to speak.
Fantastic. I look forward to following along with it. Last question for you, Greg. Any books you've read in the last year or two that you recommend, or that I should check out if I haven't looked at it already?
I'm reading Profit First right now by what's his name? Michalowicz, I think, something like that.
Michalowicz or Michalowicz?
Michalowicz or something like that.
Yeah.
It's upside down. I'm trying to read it upside down right now. It's sitting over upside down. So
he's got a long last name that's very
lots
of consonants.
Yeah, exactly. So
yes,
I'm only halfway through, but I don't think I need to finish it. I already got it. I understand what he's getting at. For those that aren't familiar, the premise that apparently a light bulb went off for him where he was eating a huge plate of food at night, and he was trying to do a diet, and he was watching this infomercial on that said, hey, American plate sizes have increased. Not the size of the food, the size of the plate itself has increased like 40% in the past 100 years. And if you fill your plate with food, you're going to eat it all. Much like if you fill one bank account, an operations checking out with all your money, you're going to spend it all. And at the end of the year, even if you had a great year, you sold a ton of work, been super busy, at the end of the year, you just go and hoping there's profits left over. There might not be any because you probably ate them all. And the solution for that is actually pull the profit out first. If you think about it, most of us do it as individuals. You have a 401k account, that's profit first. It takes it out of the paycheck before you have a chance to spend it. And you need to structure your life and your expenses around the money after it's taken out for the 401k. So otherwise, if it's not taken out first, you're probably going to spend it all. And at the end of the month, there's nothing left to save. So we all do it personally, but very few people run their businesses that way. And the advantage is you take the profit out first, you take taxes out first, and you have to run the rest on what's left over. And it forces you to be innovative, to be efficient, to think of areas where, there's opportunities to save a little money here or there, and just not be wasteful. And, it's something that I'm going to implement. I just read the book last week, so that's on the horizon for me to sort of implement that framework. And it seems like such a no-brainer. I'm like, why are more people not doing this? So I'm excited about it.
Totally. I love it. Yeah, I know people that take that whole book's advice to the extreme. They have like 8 different bank accounts and do all that stuff, which again, I don't know that I'm going to go that far, but I like the mentality is still good. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. The book is also, I should clarify, the book is very much written for people that are starting out and really just struggling. They're not even paying themselves. So he's like, you need an account that's like owner's salary. So we're paid a salary from the S Corp, just like all of our employees. So we're a little bit beyond where the book is at, but the concept's still solid.
Totally. Yeah. Greg Henry, this has been really fun. I am excited to follow along with your journey as you keep building this thing and figuring out what's next. Where can people follow along with you or follow up with you and contact you?
Probably best at push10.com. That's push10.com. I don't know my LinkedIn handle or profile URL off, but if you just search me, I'm sure you'll find me.
We'll put it in the show notes. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, you'll find
Awesome.
me. I don't know it off the top of my head.
This is great, Greg. Thanks so much for the time. I look forward to talking again soon.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks, Karl. I'll see you.
Thank you for watching this episode of Retain Trust. If you like this one, give it a thumbs up and subscribe on YouTube. It takes 2 seconds and it helps others find out about the show. And if you have questions or suggestions for a future episode, leave a comment. See you next time.